Hello and welcome to Cyber Threat Thursday. I'm Kristin Judge from the Cybercrime Support Network, and I'm so excited to talk to Daniel Markuson here from NordVPN. Today we're going to talk about what is a VPN and look at some of the predictions into 2021 for your security for your small business or individually. Thank you so much for being here, Daniel. Could you take a minute to introduce yourself and let everybody know a little bit about your background?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hello, my name is Daniel Markuson. I work at NordVPN and NordSecurity, and my job is primarily to help educate the public, to help communicate all kinds of information about how to stay more secure and more private online. And probably, we don't just limit that to information about our products. We just feel in general that, any information that we can provide about that, we're glad to do so.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. You and I were talking earlier that we both feel like we're interpreters. We know enough about the security side to help regular people who are not necessarily technologists understand the importance of privacy and security. I think it's such an important job. So could you tell me a little bit about NordSecurity and NordVPN and what you all do there?
Yeah. So NordSecurity, well, everything started with NordVPN. Right? We built up this VPN service, and because of its success, we started expanding to offering other cybersecurity products for the public, and then for businesses as well. And so now we have NordSecurity, which is kind of the umbrella that covers all of those, that has all those products together. NordVPN is kind of the you can call it the trunk, right, of the tree that started it all, but now there are a lot of different products under that umbrella.
That's great. That's great. And so could you tell, some people on the line probably don't know what a VPN is and how it works. What is a VPN and how does it work?
Okay. I'll start with a less technical analogy, and then maybe we'll go a bit more technical.
Okay.
So, if the internet is a highway, then let's say the router that you have in your house that gives you Wi-Fi would be, well, you can think of it in this analogy as your house. So your internet connection drives out of your house onto your local streets and onto the highway. What a VPN is if instead of driving a family vehicle, you were driving an armored car of the sort that, say, would transport cash between banks. You use the same channels as the general public, and there are exceptions to that, but generally use the same channels as the public, except you're doing so in a way where no one can see, nobody knows where you're going, and nobody knows what's inside your vehicle, and that which is inside your vehicle is safe. So that would be kind of if I were to explain that to a child, sort of what a VPN does. So what a VPN does is it creates a private network. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. And in this case, the private network is created between the device on which you have the VPN. So that would be, in our case, that would be the device on which you install our app. Or if you're a moderately advanced user, that can be a device on which that you set up to connect to our service without an app. And then from there, your traffic is encrypted, and then it's sent to whichever server you choose that is part of our infrastructure. The number varies. I don't have the specific number on me now, but generally it's over 5,000, somewhere 5,500 around there, servers around the world. So you form an encrypted connection between your device and that server. That's where the private network comes in.
That's fantastic. So then you're in that armored vehicle and you can feel safe about going on the internet. Even if you're on a public Wi-Fi away from your home, you're still in that armored vehicle, which is what gives you that extra protection on a public Wi-Fi. Is that true?
Absolutely. So now, we can also talk about what a VPN does for people. So there's a few things, and you're right. Actually, public Wi-Fi is one of kind of the key use cases of a VPN. There's a lot of things you can do with it, a lot of things it helps with, but say you're using the Wi-Fi at a restaurant, using it at a hotel, in an airport, anywhere. You don't know, at home, you have control. You can alter your own router's settings. You can set your passwords and everything. In the public, well, it's by design. Those routers have to be easy to connect to, and you don't know who's on there. You don't know what they're doing. So a VPN encrypts your traffic and keeps you secure in those kind of cases. There are other things it does as well. DNS servers, which are what we use when we connect to the internet to find where we're going. They're like, you can think of them as the address book. So we also ensure that we provide secured access to those as well, which is kind of a separate informational channel, because those can also be compromised. And then another thing is, when you connect to the VPN server that's at the other end of the private network that you connect to when you connect to a VPN, when your traffic comes out at the other end and hits the World Wide Web, it no longer has your IP address. Now, your IP address isn't necessarily an individual identifier, but it's assigned to your router. So if the router belongs only to you, if it's your private router, it can identify you to quite a close level of granularity, but that a VPN strips that away, and the public-facing internet no longer sees that part of your identity. That's not just a privacy issue. That can be a security issue as well. Being able to connect your identity across multiple services that you use can be a threat. So that's another kind of additional security benefit that it offers to the user. And then, of course, beyond that, you can extrapolate that to tons of use cases for this technology.
Absolutely. And, it's really important for people to understand that if you are on a public Wi-Fi, other people in the room or other people that have access to that router sometimes have malicious intent, and they can see and copy everything that you're doing. So that's why having a VPN is so important for anyone who works on their computer or their phone or accesses the internet outside of their home secure router. And so, when we were traveling a lot, it was even more important, but there's still people that are traveling and working from other places because they can't work from home because they may have kids at home. So they're going out and searching for Wi-Fi in other places. And without a VPN, you really shouldn't be on any public Wi-Fi, in my opinion. I don't care what you're doing to surf. So we are very conscious of that here at CSN. And I think, 10 years ago when I saw the first VPN, I was actually at University of Detroit Mercy at their cybersecurity lab, and someone showed me what a VPN was. 10 years ago, it was for technical people. Now, VPN is for everybody. I mean, NordVPN, there's like one press of a button and you're on a secure network. So tell people what's happened sort of, over the years now, how easy it is to use a VPN. It's not really a technical tool from the user perspective.
Yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly. The nice thing about a VPN is that you can, if you want, use it technically. But that used to be the only way that you can use it. And now we've made it really easy. And actually, that's a really big win for general cybersecurity, because that means that populations that may have been disadvantaged can now use it easily. I know that quite a few people actually purchase VPNs for elderly family members, because these are people who understandably may or may not, but may tend to be less internet literate and more vulnerable to problems online. And a VPN does a lot to help that, especially the good thing about NordVPN is, not only is the app easy to use, but because of our position in the market, we can offer so much more value in that app. We have there's the cybersec function, which basically, if you try to browse while you have that on and you hit a site that's been blacklisted because it's a known malware distributor, it'll protect you from things like that. And we've got even more features similar to that in the pipeline. I'm not at liberty to discuss them in detail, but yeah. So not only is it easy to use, but it's expanding cybersecurity to vulnerable populations that may not have had access before.
That's fantastic. And VPNs in general, not necessarily, Nord, but they're also very inexpensive. People may think it's an expensive technical tool, but there's a small monthly cost, under $5, under $4 sometimes a month. And you can also put on multiple devices for one license. So it's something that anybody really can afford if they have a business on the internet or if they work on the internet and they do want to use public Wi-Fi within their job. So that's fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing in 2021. So do you have any predictions for what kind of cybersecurity issues we're going to be looking at, and what should small businesses and consumers be thinking about?
Right. So I think specifically for 2021, well, okay, let's begin in general with new technologies that are becoming available. So AI, as AI becomes more and more kind of well explored and developed, that's going to become an asset both for cyber criminals and for cybersecurity experts, technicians, because so there's kind of a new front opening up on this, cat and mouse game. So, cybersecurity AI can be used, for example, to analyze code and to identify, malicious lines of code, where previously it would be kind of a dumb system where you compare, here's the line of code I know that does something bad. Does it exist in this? If not, but AI would help you cover, as of yet, perhaps undiscovered cases, and it can help look for vulnerabilities, do perhaps penetration testing, right? There's a lot of potential. Same is true for cyber criminals using AI. There's already such thing as, I'm blanking on the name right now, but there are viruses that can self-edit their code, right? Programs that can alter themselves, and lots of other potential applications for AI. Another one is, well, this kind of goes with AI, since that's partially what's powering this technology, but deepfake videos. Not just on a broader stage in terms of perhaps political misinformation and such, but since social engineering is such a powerful avenue of attack, because you can have the most secure, you can think of digital fortress in the world, but if someone can fool you into handing over the keys, right, into giving away your password or vulnerable information, right, so that vulnerability always exists. And deepfakes are a new front in fooling people to trust someone who they shouldn't have trusted.
Would you give a general definition of what is a deepfake? I know a lot of people are hearing about it, but some people might still not know what that actually is.
Right. So deepfakes are essentially cutting-edge technology to falsify Well, I mean, we've been able to falsify photographs for a while. Deepfakes can do that better, but deepfakes also, at this point, are making it possible to falsify video, perhaps in ways that have not been possible before. And we are actually already seeing cases of online abuse occurring through deepfakes. There are, I believe, bots on the Telegram chat app where people can send photographs of people, and the deepfakes will make those photographs kind of to keep it family friendly, inappropriate or compromising photographs, and it'll just keep the head. So that's a new avenue for blackmailing someone, so that's something to look out for.
Yeah.
Another one is, there's this new technology coming out, relatively new, right? 5G, and kind of the world is still scrambling to understand, what new threats may present themselves as this rolls out globally, and what new security measures will be necessary.
Yeah, good point. And I appreciate the way you talk about the cat and mouse game, because it really is that, we'll make a better password, passphrase idea for the security experts, and then the bad guys will figure out that. And so we have to then step it up more and step it up more,
Right.
and so on. SMS text messages used to be good enough for most two-factor authentication, and now they're saying, well, you probably have to use an authenticator. Some people, you better use a biometric. And so right. We're always chasing each other. I sometimes feel like we're 10 years behind the bad guys, but hopefully with AI, we're looking ahead too, as the good guys here. But AI, I think I agree with you, is really going to change the landscape, because it's going to allow these programs to do so much more without the staff behind them really to make some of the differences, which is going to be challenging. Another big challenge that we've all been living with right now globally is COVID-19. And have you seen from where you sit how COVID-19 has potentially impacted people's security or things that you're looking at from where you sit?
Absolutely. So there are a few things. First of all, from kind of the human, what I mentioned social engineering before, right? So it's kind of a cold way to think about this, but it so happens that the human user is often one of the weakest points of whatever system they're using from a cybersecurity standpoint. So there's this entire new set of anxieties and fears that scammers and hackers can play upon to target people, to find victims, and we've already seen a lot of this. In fact, it was happening. It happened quite quickly once everything, began at the beginning of last year. There were fake domain names being registered already. There were emails being sent out about, oh, there's a vaccine available, but there's only 100 units. Just transfer money now, and we'll send it to you or whatever. And that's still happening. And so, from that emotional standpoint, it has provided an additional avenue of attack. Another thing is with far more people now are working from home than they were before. Myself included.
Me too.
Yeah. So and what that means is that, so if not all companies even will take the proper steps to secure their own office networks, but even if they have, suddenly you've got you've decentralized your entire office network, where was once everyone was connected to a single network that you could secure. Everyone now is connected at home. Not only are they connected at home, but it is likely, unless you have the office infrastructure set up already, it's likely that they're connecting using private devices. And so private devices, that's a device that you can't put, internal company security software on. And that's a device where you don't know what that person does with it, when they're gone, what kind of malware it may or may not have. And yet that device is also in some way interfacing with your internal network. There's a huge cloud of new potential issues. You've got people, depending on the severity of the quarantine in a particular country, maybe they can go to cafes to work because they want to get out of the house. And perhaps that's not something they did before, but it's something they're doing now. And if they don't have a VPN, well, now they're in that higher risk environment where previously they would have been sitting in a hopefully secured office. So that's a big one.
It's really just, we have so many more endpoints from a security person who's running any company and trying to keep the endpoints secure. They now just exponentially grew their endpoints, and the endpoints, like you said, are connecting to a network they have no responsibility for or even insight into. And so some people with their home routers have done a good job. Like I hope we have here at our house, thanks to my husband. We've changed the default password. We have two-factor authentication on our router. We have, locked systems here. But not everybody has done that with their home router. And if you send all of your team home and don't teach them how to secure their router, then that would be another reason you'd probably want them to use a VPN, because then they're coming in an encrypted way into your system. So
and it's not just the centralized connections. It's now people are looking for new apps. So if a year or two ago we were all having our meetings in the office, and now we're having them out of the office, people have been moving to other apps to fill that need. And not all those apps have been very secure. We've seen several cases where Zoom meetings have been infiltrated by cybersecurity experts who are kind of sounding the alarm, like, "Hey, people, be careful." We have to hope that they're the only ones who broke in, but that's probably not the case.
No, I remember back in March, a couple of my friends had meetings and they were Zoom bombed, and some very nasty things were said. And it was a public meeting. And the great thing what Zoom did is they right away put out patches, they owned it. I was really, it's great to see if security companies can always do that, or even that they weren't a security company, but if companies, once there's something wrong with the security, they say, look, we own this, here's the patch, this is what we want you to do. They really came out in front of it instead of other people having to say, hey, here's what you should do with Zoom. It was Zoom themselves, which I was really impressed with. And they've done a lot to improve their security. And then, but there's Google Hangouts, there's Microsoft Teams, there's BlueJeans, there's Cisco WebEx, there's so many different, and I think I've probably been on all of them now. But, there's your staff then is probably on 7 or 8 different platforms, potentially even all in one day, that you may not have even vetted. And there's probably other new ones coming up. And again, another reason why you want them to connect to things securely.
Yeah. And I would say you probably touched on another thing that's worth mentioning, not specific to COVID, but the general trend over the past few years has been that the scale probably more scale. I'm not sure about severity. That would be harder to put a finger on. But the scale of data breaches has been growing year by year, and it's likely to be larger this year than it was last year. So that's another issue. And so, I think what you mentioned about owning those events, making the right conclusions, showing that you're improving, fixing these things, improving your awareness, especially in the current environment when those risks are greater. Perhaps those numbers would have grown by less if we didn't have the pandemic that we have, but we do. So it is more important than it would have been for companies to really own those issues and to fix them, and for those who haven't been breached yet, to do so prophylactically.
Yeah, I really appreciate how you talked about the emotion and these scams. And whenever emotions are high, which right now emotions are high globally, everybody is really stressed. You can't walk away from what the pandemic is doing to our lives, our livelihood, our families. The people have lost family members around the world. It's been a very stressful time. And you're right. The bad guys will follow those emotional tracks and try and take advantage of it, unfortunately. And so when we're a little more vulnerable, we may be apt to believe something that we wouldn't have believed when we were, not so worried about things. Absolutely. And I want to make sure we point out to everybody that Dimitri has been putting some links, including some of your blogs and websites in the chat. So I want to make sure everybody checks those out. And then I want to end with the fact that we have on scamspotter.org some really great information about how to spot scams around COVID-19, vaccines, romance scams, all kinds of good news and bad news scams. So I want to make sure people know you can go there to learn more. And then if you have been impacted by a scam or online fraud, you can go to fraudsupport.org and find out how to report, recover, and then reinforce your security afterwards. So Daniel, I want to thank you so much for being here with us today. And thank you to all the folks at Nord who put out really good educational materials and a product that can keep a lot of people safe. So thank you. And I hope to do this with you again soon.
Well, thanks for having us. And thanks for doing the wonderful work that you guys have been doing.
Oh, we appreciate you supporting us for the past 3 years now, I think. So thank you. Take care. This is Kristin Judge from the Cyber Threat Thursday at Cybercrime Support Network, and we will see you on Tuesday for Cyber Tip Tuesday, and then again next Thursday with another expert coming in to just help us keep up on what's going on with cybersecurity. Thank you and have a great day.